I always love when the dubbed COD timing hits me in real life. This year in particular has gotten me more than ever. For example, from somehow never having any scheduling conflicts, first season of content to launch and then cover with content here on the channel, in years of doing content full time, to this year I think I've been home for like 2 seasonal launches. But yesterday Call of Duty announced something that we've wanted for 6 years at this point, so naturally, I was also out all day. So we are a bit later to discussing this, but I wanted to chime in on this a little bit. With Battlefield 6's launch later this week and Arc Raiders to follow soon after that, truth be told, this will probably be one of the last COD videos in a little bit of time just because of how insanely busy things are about to get. But this, I think, warranted a discussion on our sort of final off day before everything gets insane. So drop your thoughts, drop a like, and make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all things FPS content. Again, we've got the busiest fall in our channel's history here the next 2 to 3 months, and we're pushing towards that still long haul goal of 700,000 subscribers, but I'd love to have you in the community if you'd like to join. But for now, let's get into it. So to preface, I genuinely had not had the opportunity to play Black Ops 7's beta before this playlist was added. All footage you're seeing in this video is from this new mode here. I've been doing a few things over the last couple of days that I can't quite talk about just yet, but observationally speaking, I had seen quite a few demon lobbies on my timeline. Most of them actually for the beta. I mean, I tabbed into Shroud playing on Twitch at some point where when Shroud's getting bodied, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But yesterday it was announced via a blog and accompanying social post that we'd be seeing the open mosh pit, stating, like all things in the beta, our collective goal is to gather critical in-game data and feedback to make Black Ops 7 the best experience possible. We're engaging with the community discussion about matchmaking and will make some updates to our playlist plans, but today we have 2 playlists available, Mosh Pit and the new option, Open Mosh Pit. In Open Mosh Pit, skill consideration is drastically reduced when matchmaking, with a goal of providing more varied match experiences and outcomes. This playlist will match players with and against players of more varied skill differences than in the current multiplayer matchmaking system. Now this mode, it'll be live for the entirety of the beta, so jump in while you can, but is that not just crazy to hear? That after 6 years of the matchmaking system, the beauty of competition, in my opinion, not having had a challenger in recent years and now finally having a solid direct competitor to Call of Duty, they're taking drastic changes here and drastic steps to trying to make that something that's more appealing to players, especially those hardcore ones that are willing to jump ship and go to something that more so embodies what they enjoy out of a game, and not somebody that, like a sort of FIFA or Madden, that every single year you know the certain players are going to be coming back. Now, this honestly came out of nowhere. There have been some concessions made in regards to gameplay changes and things like that, but this was the first time that we had seen any sort of mention of this, and it was the official announcement. Honestly, talking about the playlist itself, I really liked it. It was more organic gameplay to begin with, where you'd have this variance in gameplay experiences, getting stomped versus being the one to stomp. Now, I can't speak for everybody. I know that the sort of cop-out and one of the main arguments against skill-based matchmaking for people like me, creators, and people that end up playing the game a ton is that you just want to stomp noobs. You just want to have these insane gameplays every single time and not have anything that goes against making it easy for you. But for me personally, the variability is what I find refreshing. I'm okay to grind stuff out, to go hard on gameplays. I don't inherently hate competitive play. Hell, I mean, I've played competitive sports my whole life. I gamify everything. I make everything internally a competition with myself. And of course, I played, in this case of Call of Duty and like this, I've played competitive video games for years. I don't mind competition, but it's the ability to turn it off from time to time, having things be a bit more chill. The thing I always end up using as an example is like, if you're LeBron James or some other NBA player, NHL player, NFL player, somebody of a professional caliber of your sport, are you not allowed to just go and shoot hoops at your local gym or anything and just casually go get some reps in? Or do you always have to be playing like it's a championship scenario? That's what the last couple of years have kind of felt like the game is trying to do, making you only play those super competitive vantage points. Like if I'm doing pistols, launchers, melees, every single year that I go for Call of Duty camos, you'd think that after like 20 matches of getting smacked with a knife that they'd throw me a bone. But it doesn't because of that overall skill parameter. I love the up and down of not knowing what my next match is going to be like, instead of knowing that I'm going to get stomped if I'm trying to use something off meta. Knowing that after 5 matches of getting losses in a row going up against 6-mans, I might end up getting a slightly easier lobby that tries to keep me on the game, saying, okay, you can do better next time. Let's try it again. And from a solo player's perspective, I hadn't felt what I felt in this playlist since literally Black Ops 4, so predating the current matchmaking system that we have now, where it makes it enjoyable and something that is actually easy to play as a solo player. Not to mention, it was also nice being able to get into matches incredibly fast. Now, I know this comes down to a lot of different variables, where you're at in the world, if you're in a more populated region, what your sort of server status is in relation to where you are. Like, I think it's African, Middle East, and Oceania regions that have the worst connection times to various servers around the world. So like that plus skill factor plus a litany of other things that you can throw into the matchmaking system, it adds a lot of time into finding matches. But to be able to queue up and then within 5 seconds have a full lobby, that's pretty nice. And as a result, ping is actually king again here, it seems like, with this playlist. And listen, I'm not going to say that I'm not happy that it's not here. Like, I don't want this to be a scenario of like, oh, you complain when something's wrong and then complain when something's good. Like, it's not that. It's just in this particular instance, talking about ping, we've been kind of gaslit for 6 years now saying, no, ping is still king, when the exact existence of this contradicts that statement. So it's kind of frustrating in that sense. But this, I think, was very refreshing. Again, and it seems like that's the sentiment around all of those that end up playing Call of Duty a lot, that seeing this is definitely something nice to have. But here's where we turn to the future now at this point, because we don't know what this is going to end up doing for the full launch of the game. They said this is used to get that data in-game and to have the ability to test things out, but I think worst outcome, which I kind of see happening, is that good players will enjoy it, but the player base at large, according to their data, will find it to be a net negative, thus not making it something that sticks around. And this is only used as like dangling the carrot for that player sentiment for a rough few months that we saw since the game was revealed. Kind of using that as the skill-based matchmaking test we saw back in Modern Warfare 3, but an announced public version of that test, not utilizing random unannounced lobbies and matchmaking periods as a sort of stealth update that, while it was public, was basically a behind closed doors testing. This is going to be something that actually engages that larger player base that would be interested in that. Sucks to kind of feel pessimistic about it, but I've said it plenty of times. I don't mind the core experience of Black Ops 6 and thus Black Ops 7 with this. In fact, I even had fun when jumping into this, but it's just when you've kind of heard the we're listening to feedback for 6 years and nothing sticks around, you're a little bit skeptical of hearing it again. Now, the best possible outcome on the flip side is that this does become something that sticks around. That this is genuinely a turning point for the franchise and what we see with this game, hopefully going forward. However, there might be an asterisk on this. If it leads to general leveraging, great, that's awesome. But if this is something that you still have to opt into outside of a stricter matchmaking system, it's a win, but it's not necessarily like a sweeping win. Because if you have this as a sub-menu playlist like we have right now, depending on where it's placed in those menus, it'll be something that as time goes by, the player counts dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Like, especially if it's a hidden mode, like that's on the sub-menu or like past the fold of what we see for the playlists themselves. Like Modern Warfare 3's, the ground war playlist on that was always dead because it was the last tile and you'd have to scroll all the way over, which if you're just looking at it, you probably forget that, oh yeah, I can scroll over for that. So if you start to have these scenarios where it whittles down to less and less, you're effectively back to square one to begin with, because those players that are playing it are the ones that want to take into account the ping is king. They want to have those lobbies that it's like they're not sweating super hard all of the time. But when you get to that point, then it just comes down to the people that are the more hardcore of that and that will be the ones probably sweating all the time. Now for me, I again don't care about skill-based matchmaking systems inherently. There are good things to it, protecting players that really should not be getting stomped 24/7, but whenever it's something that's forced on you 24/7, oppositely, it's a terrible thing. When it's an optional thing to opt into though, like how so many games have a ranked system, if you make a compelling ranked experience with rewards or whatever the case, that you can actually get people to be like, oh, no, I want to play that. I recognize the skill differential here, the things that will make games a bit more competitive, but I want to play it, that you can gamify or incentivize that. You'll have no problem populating and elongating that player time. But if you force it on players with no optional routes outside of that in other ways of play, that's when you see that fatigue and burnout that's so heavily apparent this year compared to others, or at least in my humble opinion. Now, coming out of this, perhaps what makes me a bit maybe delusionally optimistic, though still I'm not expecting this to happen, is that like right now what we see with this open playlist, it is the first thing on that matchmaking selection. Not tucked away in any sub-menu or anything like that, it's the first playlist, which ever since 2019, especially with fracturing into multiple different modes and menus, the first selection that is there has always been the most prominent and featured the most players. So to offer that up as the first option is quite the deliberate choice. So fingers crossed that I'm hoping this is a good sign and that's not necessarily just being used as a ploy to justify scrapping it entirely if it underperforms by comparison to a hidden playlist and where it would be like that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Right now, at the end of the day, it is definitely nice to jump in and see that variance in gameplay experiences, to be able to stomp, while also then perhaps going up against some people that may stomp you. But either way, at the end of the day, whatever happens with it, I think it's a, right now, nice gesture that we've had for the first time in a while. But ultimately, not just because they want to be nice is the way that I see it. I absolutely see this as a fight for your playtime and to garner up interest in the game. Something that is hard proof, in my opinion, if that's the case, of why we need competition in this space. As blasphemous as it may be to say, feels like I can't ever say anything like, oh, I like Call of Duty the last year or so, I am looking forward to the launch of this game. What happens afterwards, who knows? But the launch with Battlefield, and I know it's not in the same realm perhaps, but it's in the same launch window, Arc Raiders, all three of those, I'm looking forward to playing. I think the competition, pulling for your playtime, is something that can only make our play experiences better, as developers and publishers are all like, crap, we got to do something more, we're losing some foothold here. I will happily take studios fighting over us, seeing the value of our playtime as opposed to so many times they have not in the recent past. Like Black Ops 7, Battlefield 6, or whatever you may want to play, my sincere hope is that you just play and engage with what you enjoy and what makes you happy. I truly don't care about this feud of, this game sucks, no, that game sucks. Like, that type of stuff is just so stupid to me. I don't care, just play what makes you happy. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. But right now, that's where we're at. Pretty cool that we ended up seeing this. Will it amount to something later on? We don't quite know, but for the next couple of days, it's nice to have. It's an objective win, no matter what way you spin it, I think. Even though we've had, again, years of gaslighting, the seeming pressure of other influences in the industry, you name it, I'll take what we have here out of this as a win, as we have it. But for now, that's going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this playlist? Do you think it will lead to something in the future? Do you think that this is due directly to competition, or whatever the case? Drop your thoughts. If you guys enjoyed the video, though, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, again, make sure you subscribe for a very, very busy fall upcoming with 3 game launches here, potentially 4, depending on when the Battle Royale for Battlefield 6 launches. It is going to be so much content, so much coverage, and I can't wait to share it all with you guys. So, love to have you in the community. For now, though, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care, and peace.